Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Mike Papantonio on the line with us, America's lawyer, host of Ring of Fire Radio, ringofireradio.com, and the Ring of Fire TV show on Free Speech TV as well. Hey, Pap, how you doing?
Tom, how are you?
Great. So, Florida turns down medical marijuana, although it did get a majority of the vote. And the elections were just downright weird all over the country. I'm curious your thoughts on all this stuff.
Well, I guess the macro picture is that the real battle this year, the GOP battle, for example, was as much an inside battle, inside party battle, as it was against the Democrats. And the reason that's important is because of where that leaves us now. Understand that the GOP had to rid themselves of the Tea Party lunatics who they understood were causing their grand old party to implode. And they were fairly successful in doing that during the primaries. A few moonbats got through like Joni Ernst, but the GOP made progress. So that's important to us, because now what we're going to see is the Wall Street Democrats, the third-way Democrats, the banker types. We're going to see them do the same thing to the liberal progressive Democrats like we're seeing in Florida already. It's already begun. The goal is going to be to make the Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders types appear so odd and so aberrational that Hillary Clinton, she begins to look like the last best hope for the Democrats. So they're fully engaged. It's going to be the rebirth of the Clintonite corporate love affair that began with Bill and NAFTA and CAFTA and TTP and every other trade agreement. We're going to see all that come to the surface, and liberal progressive voices are going to be marginalized, just like the GOP has done with the Tea Party. That's where we are. We're already seeing that movement in Florida.
Well, I guess it's a good time for progressive talk radio, then. Our voices are needed more than ever.
It is. It is.
So, your thoughts on the medical marijuana thing in Florida?
Well, what happened was, I mean, understand it passed it's rarely failed. What ended up happening here is the Republicans saw medical marijuana as a way to scare the hell out of older voters. I mean, the blue hairs came out in droves because they were scared of the ad campaign that was put on about medical marijuana. You're going to they're going to be in your backyard. They're going to be dealing drugs in your backyard. Your children, your grandchildren are all going to be using marijuana. It was a very effective scare tactic. And the irony to it all was that at one point that was something that was meant to bring out Democratic voters, and I think it did. But what it also did is it energized kind of the white hairs to get out there and say, oh my God, this is scary. So it was kind of a double.
So they did a reefer madness thing on medical marijuana?
Well, what ended up happening on medical marijuana was exactly that. They turned it into this is an invitation for crime. And they argued that the amendment, and as I look at the amendment, I do have to agree. The amendment was poorly written. How it got past the Supreme Court I thought was remarkable, but there should be an amendment that we should have legalized marijuana in this state. I mean, every state that's looking at this is buying into this idea that it's a great idea, because look, marijuana, legalization of marijuana, just to put it in perspective, you had Oregon, Alaska, Washington, D.C. legalized marijuana and possession of marijuana, not just for medical, but for any kind of purpose. And when you compare the initiatives that have existed in other states, what this just invited an immunity for the people who might become dealers. That was the pitch. Even though it wasn't completely honest, you could read it, you could say, well, maybe it does really say that. And that was the ad campaign that we saw down here. It really did rally, it rallied fearful Republicans to get out there when they might have stayed at home.
Remarkable. There was an interesting piece. Anything else you wanted to toss in here before I start provoking you?
Well, I think what I wanted to talk about, I just don't think we can miss the fact that this full Clinton frontal march to deregulate, we're going to see it. Wall Street's thieves are back, full tilt. We're going to see it continue. Prosecution of corporate criminals, another Bill Clinton and Obama standstill that we saw with them. You're going to see the voices against them, the Elizabeth Warrens, the Bernie Sanders, marginalized. Labor, Bill Clinton's approach was, you're on your own, thanks for the money, but you're on your own. That's going to continue. The federal court appointments of the silk stocking, corporate defense, anti-consumer centrist judges, yes men. We're going to see that continue. And all of this is going to be, it has credibility now in the eyes of the Democratic leadership, and they're going to do everything they can to really create this new world of the third way Wall Street Democrat, this new power, and marginalize people like me and you, Tom, and people that might stand for progressive ideas.
What's so profoundly weird about this, Pap, is that the candidates who embraced traditional Democratic Party values, progressive values, who talked about raising the minimum wage, who talked about strengthening organized labor, who talked about protecting the environment, who talked about strengthening Social Security rather than privatizing it, who talked about expanding Medicaid and Medicare rather than voucherizing them, who talked about public schools and ending this march toward privatization. I mean, literally, I could come up with a list of 20 things here.
Right.
That's the stuff Al Franken ran on, and he won walking away. That's the stuff Tom Wolfe ran on. He won walking away. That's the stuff that Jeff Merkley ran on. He won walking away. You know, this is in a variety of different states where conservatives and middle-of-the-road Democrats were losing.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, case in point, increasing minimum wage. Think about this. Arkansas, for God's sake, South Dakota, Alaska, Nebraska raised their minimum wage. San Francisco
with like 70% of the vote.
Exactly, $15 per hour in San Francisco. But this is the point exactly the point I'm making, Tom. What is happening now is there's going to be this smoke and mirrors notion, gee whiz, we need Hillary Clinton now more than ever because she stands for the centrist way. What did we hear this president say? When he stalks, what did he say? I hear you? That was his message, I hear you. And now what we're going to see this guy who's already an incredible moderate to right winger just say, look, you're right. I have to go along with you. We're going to see no fight back. We're going to see we're going to see the very worst of what we used to think was the worst the Democrats going to get. It's going to get worse. It's going to become the party of Joe Manchin and Hillary Clinton. Even though, as you point out, where the liberals had a voice. How about this? Voter expanded paid sick leave, for God's sakes. Now, California, it passes. New Jersey, it passes. And it wasn't just a small margin. And these were liberal ideas, but nevertheless, you're going to have leadership, this nepotism that exists in the Democratic Party, like we're seeing in Florida right now, where these appointments are made for leadership. They embrace Bill Clinton. They still believe that Bill Clinton is relevant for what we need to become. And they say that because they're trying to empower Hillary Clinton going into this election. They're trying to marginalize people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and a whole host of people who believe everything those people are talking about. And so we're in a war within the party.
Yeah, we have just a minute left. The Green Party's not going to save us from this. So doesn't the question, and this is relatively inevitable, I think. So doesn't the question become, how do we infiltrate, how do we influence, how do we have a significant voice in the Democratic Party the way that the Tea Party did with the Republican Party? And by the way, I disagree that the Tea Party went away. I give you a list of nine major candidates who all won. They just stopped using Tea Party rhetoric.
Yes, that's accurate. But that in-house fight was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
Look, haven't we tried to do what you're saying already? When Obama came into office, didn't we say this is our day?
I don't think we've tried doing it since Martin Luther King was banging on Lyndon Johnson's door.
Okay, well, I just remember the day of change when we heard this president stand up.
Oh, I think we thought we were getting it.
Yeah,
but I don't think we showed up to force it.
Oh, we got it, but it was not what I thought we were going to get.
Yeah. You understand that my point, but maybe my point is too subtle. I don't know. Maybe it's airy-fairy. Maybe it just, I don't know. Anyhow, Mike Papantonio, it's always great talking with you, Pap. Thanks so much for being with us.
Talk to you.
ringofireradio.com.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And be sure to check out Mike Papantonio's website, ringofireradio.com. Fifteen minutes past the hour. Mike Papantonio is still on the line with us. What's up on Free Speech TV this weekend, Pap, on Ring of Fire TV on Sunday at noon?
Well, this week, Farron Cousins is going to be he's going to be hosting the program. He's going to be talking about the midterm election results. He has the best analysis of what all this means, just brilliant analysis. He's going to be talking about where the Democratic Party should move, but where they probably won't move. We'll also be talking about the corporate attempts to enact tort reform now that the corporatists are back in charge. We're going to see a full frontal attack. They're going to try to take tort reform to a whole new level where the courthouse is closed to consumers and open to corporations. We're going to explain why banks are no longer loaning money to people who help the economy and how Wall Street banks are strangling local banks to death so they can move into that space. And we're going to talk about the decline of America's collective IQ. It is real. It's not just words. We're not making this up. Voters are so less informed than ever. And the impact is deplorable. And that includes millennials, by the way.
Well, you know who I think is responsible for that is the damn party. The Democratic Party has not in years talked about traditional Democratic Party values.
No, they haven't since Bill. I know that here's when Bill Clinton came into office, Tom, he convinced the American public, the Democrats in the American public, that the only way we could win was to look Republican, to morph into Republican. Right now, right now what we see is Hillary, for example, trying to walk both sides of that. She sees the popularity of people like Elizabeth Warren, who stand for something, or Bernie Sanders, who stand for something. Sherrod Brown stands for something. These people who are out there, and all of a sudden the populist message is making a lot of sense. Yeah. For her to look at what happened nationally and ignore what happened, but she has simply embraced what she learned from Bill.
Do you think it's possible, and maybe this is far out, but Bill was president. Well, first of all, I think everybody in America needs to go Google the New Covenant speech. This was Bill's stump speech that he ran on in 1992. And it was FDR. I mean, he ran on a very, very progressive vision, and then he governed as if he was Richard Nixon. But that said, he started out relatively progressive, and then the Republicans took the House, the Gingrich Revolution, and suddenly he's, let's do away with welfare, let's, now the era of big government is over and all this other kind of nonsense. Do you think that he might have done that because his wife was saying, hey, I want to have a political future too, and I know about Monica, and you are going to make it happen for me, damn it. And so he said that, hey, the best way to open the door for Hillary a few years down the road to become a senator and maybe president someday is for me to suck up to these guys.
Hillary has wanted to be president since she was in the Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
So that is very possible. And I don't think it's that remote. Listen, there was a shift. There was a sea change all of a sudden where we woke up and we said, who is this guy that has this love affair with people like Robert Rubin and Geithner and Summers and Wall Street and all the ugliest of the ilk on Wall Street? Who is this guy? And he realized what he was looking at as sustainability of the Democratic Party in his mind. In my mind, I think it's caused the demise of the Democratic Party. If at any point there is a chance for an independent to win, it's right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Mike Papantonio, America's lawyer, attorney with Levin Papantonio, host of Ring of Fire Radio and Ring of Fire TV, right here on Free Speech TV, every Sunday at noon, and it replays throughout the week. Check your listings. Pap, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Tom.
Always great talking to you. We'll be back.